Hi, Patterson Library friends. This is Miss Amy here to read a couple more stories. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it is still chilly. So I decided to come outside and look, there's bubbles all around. That would be a great thing to do on these days when we're at home. Hopefully you have some bubbles in the house and maybe today or tomorrow you can go out and blow some bubbles. Well, before I read my story, the reason I came outside is because I wanted to show you my weeping cherry tree. It is so beautiful this time of year. And one of my stories has something to do with blossoms. So I hope you'll enjoy. Before I start, my blackbirds are here, so help me sing. You can get your blackbirds ready using your fingers or your thumbs. Two little blackbirds sitting on a hill, one named Jack and one named Jill. Fly away, Jack, fly away, Jill. Come back, Jack, and come back, Jill. Do it with me this time. Maybe your big brothers and sisters are around. They might know this song too. Ready? Two little blackbirds sitting on a hill, one named Jack and one named Jill. Fly away, Jack, fly away, Jill. Come back, Jack, and come back, Jill. Thanks, that was great. Now, my first story is going to be called Fletcher and the Springtime Blossoms, written by Julia Rawlinson, and the illustrations are by Tiffany Beek. I hope you'll enjoy this story as much as I do. The woods were full of the chirping, bustling, sing-song sounds of spring. Fletcher bounced along with his nose in the air, sniffing the just-burst buds of flowers and playing with the butterflies. With his head spinning with sights and sounds, he tumbled happily down the hill into the sunny orchard. But when he picked himself up from the ground, he couldn't believe his eyes. A soft breeze danced through the branches, carrying snowy flakes. Snow? So late in the spring, thought Fletcher. It will be too cold for the buds and the butterflies. There's no time to lose. Looking for someone to tell, he trotted up the hill and he passed a pair of birds cooing on a branch. You flew into your summer home too soon, Fletcher cried. I've been down to the orchard. There's more snow on the way. Then we should fly back south, they called. But first we must tell Porcupine. He's just come out of his bed of leaves. He needs to snuggle back down or he'll freeze. Fletcher and the birds found Porcupine stretching and scratching. There's snow on the way, panted Fletcher. I saw it in the orchard. It will be too cold for the butterflies. The birds will need to fly south, and you must hide away. Then I should crawl back into my bed, snuffled Porcupine sadly. But first we must tell Squirrel that he needs to hunt for food. He's eaten his winter store of nuts. He will need to find some more. Fletcher, the birds, and Porcupine found Squirrel scampering after sunbeams. Snow is blowing in from the orchard, gasped Fletcher. It will be too cold for the butterfly. The birds will need to fly south. Poor Porcupine must go back to bed, and you must find some food. You're right. I've eaten my spring feast, said Squirrel, and all my stores are gone. But before I hunt for more, we need to tell the rabbits to munch as much grass as they can before the snow falls. Fletcher, the birds, Porcupine, and Squirrel hurried off again. The rabbits were rolling down the hill next to their burrow. Stop playing, cried Fletcher. There's snow blowing in from the orchard. It will be too cold for the butterflies. The birds will need to fly south. Poor Porcupine must go back to bed. Squirrel needs to find food, and you must munch more grass. Before we eat, said the rabbits, staggering dizzily to their feet. Let's go play in the snow. So the rabbits hoppity, roly-poly plopped down the hill through the woods. They were chased by Squirrel, Porcupine, the birds, and a bouncy full of importance fox, all the way to the orchard, where the ground was white with blossoms. Blossoms bobbing in the branches, blossoms blowing in the breeze, blossoms blanketing the ground, and not a snowflake to be found. "Those are blossoms, not snow, you foolish fox," the animals cried. Fletcher blinked and rubbed his eyes, feeling very silly. But then the animals scooped up pawfuls and clawfuls of blossoms from the ground and covered him in a tickly shower of fluttering white petals. Fletcher and his friends ran and played between the trees until at last they all collapsed in a blossomy, soft, white heap. Then the birds fluttered back to their branch with beakfuls of blossoms to line their nest. Porcupine snuffled off up the slope, his quills dotted with tiny white petals. Squirrel went chasing up and down trees after snow-white petals dancing in the breeze. And the rabbits bounced back up the hill with blossoms to brighten their burrow. But Fletcher just lay smiling in his soft bed of petals, watching the blossoming branches bobbing overhead. And I wanted you to notice the end pages on this story. The illustrator has made little blossoms all over the end pages, both in the front and the back of the book. Now, when you're outside, you might look for some blossoms, because not only is my weeping cherry covered with them, but some of the other trees also have blossoms, and we'll be seeing many more in the next few weeks. There's the magnolia. It has beautiful blossoms as well. Now, I have one more story I'm going to read. It's called Wake Up, It's Spring, written by Lisa Campbell Ernst. This one's a little bit shorter, and after I finish it, maybe you can go outside and look around for some signs of spring near you. Wake up, it's spring. The winter was long and cold. Then, early one morning, the sun rose and warmed the earth. "Wake up, old friend, it's spring," whispered the sun. And the warmed earth woke up. The earth basked in the sun's glow, then nudged its guest, the earthworm. "Time to wake up, spring is here." And the earthworm woke up. The worm wiggled in the warm earth and sang to its neighbor, the seed, "Spring is here, rise and shine." And the seed woke up. The seed sprouted and grew out of the earth. It called to the sleeping ladybug, "Wake up, spread your wings, it is spring." And the ladybug woke up. The ladybug laughed in the sunshine. It tickled the rabbit's ear as it whispered, "Psst, rabbit, spring is here." And the rabbit woke up. The rabbit twitched his nose to smell the spring air. He thumped to the bird up in her nest. "Out of bed, sleepyhead, it's spring." And the bird, you can help me, woke up. The bird soared from above and flew past the sleeping cat. "Wake up, furry friend," the bird chirped. "Spring is here." And the cat woke up. The cat stretched her legs and rubbed past the sleeping dog. "Time to get up," she yawned. "It's spring." And the dog woke up. Oops. Just a minute. The dog frisked and jumped and barked into the baby's room. Wake up, it's spring," cheered the dog. And the baby woke up. The baby stood up in her crib with a laugh and shouted to her brother and sister, "Out, out, spring!" And the brother and sister woke up. They picked up the baby and ran to their parents' room, jumped on the bed and shouted, "Wake up! Open your eyes! Spring is here! Spring is here at last!" And the parents woke up, one eye at a time. And they all ran to dance together in the sun. The parents and the brother and sister and the baby and the dog and the cat and the bird and the rabbit and the ladybug and the seed and the worm and all the earth, because it was spring. Thank you for being great listeners. Now, our weatherman says we might get a little bit more snow, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot more spring. So hopefully you can watch, and next time I see you, tell me some of the spring things that you have been seeing around town. I'll see you in a few more days.